Hey YouTube, how you been? All right, wanted to show you. Going to be working on off of this same body template that I used for that lacewood guitar. The working name that I've got going for that shape and for that guitar is the Dorado, or in Spanish, El Dorado. So as you can see, as I'll point out here, the horn portion of this shape is identical to my rock arch top and my jazz moderns, but at the very butt end of the guitar, there's just about 1 inch less meat there, and over on the sides that translates into just a little bit different carve there. What am I thinking of doing? Well, for the top, we'll use this this mahogany. Let's see. And then back, what I'm gonna do with this is some Shedua, or sometimes it's called Amazique or oven coal. Who knows? These are wood. As I was mentioning a few times, people come up with these crazy names to try to sell it, and something catches on and becomes popular. What this actual species is and whatnot, I don't know that just offhand, but I know what kind of wood this is. And I call it Shedua, usually. So anyway, I'm going to cut this strip all the way down. That'll give me a piece that I can turn on end and cut thin wedges out of it this way, all the way down. And that'll form the wood that I need to bend the sides. I'm going to do integrated braces in the top, so I'm not going to be gluing pieces of spruce to the back side of the top. I think that's a failure point in the future. I mean, if you're familiar with acoustic guitars, that's a repair that's commonly done, is loose braces. I don't think the trade-off of having braces that can eventually fail and fall off, not that that happens, but let's be honest, with acoustic guitars, it happens all the time. I mean, when they're 50, 60 years old, that starts happening. And that's a repair that luthiers do and whatever, but if we can build guitars that are repairable, but maybe don't need repairs in the future, even if that is decades in the future, I think that's a good thing. So those are some of the things I'm doing on this next build. I'm gonna get busy just processing this wood just a little bit tonight. It's getting pretty late on a Sunday, and I've spent all day out seeding in the garden and running irrigation and doing a bunch of other work, but got this guitar on my mind, and I'll bring you along for some of the ride. It's pretty damn good. Looks pretty cool. I don't know if you can see that, but you see that? That's not good. All right, YouTube. I had to take a brief hiatus, assess what was going on there, because that just didn't seem right. I was getting what's called snipe. It is where, right here, there's a small dip. So some of the cut on the board, in this case on the trailing edge of the board, kept getting cut away too much. when you're running a board through, if you accidentally push on the back edge as it comes through, it will be unsupported and it'll dip down into that blade and leave a hollow cutaway. Not a good deal, right? So, what did I do? Well, I looked at this outfeed table and I checked it with a straight edge, and it turned out that the blade was actually contacting the straight edge coming off of there. Basically, the outfeed side of this was too low, so it was always going to cut that away. And I'm glad that I stopped when I did, hit the pause button and assess things, because I'm going to show you something here. If I align the center line with the seam in the wood, you will see that there's not a lot of extra wood to work with there. Maybe 3/30 seconds-ish, something like that. So I got a couple more passes through the joiner to clean it up. Just got this set up, have not made a test cut with it yet. There's a lock nut back here that tightens this, and that just puts pressure against this slide. Here's the adjuster. Now look at these. Look at this nice mahogany shavings. Good deal. All right, back to it. And that is pretty close for one pass. Thought it was going to be there. Looks like I might need one more pass to clean it up. Perfect. Awesome. All right. This thing's cutting like butter now. When something's not going right, you gotta just push the pause button. Yesterday I was way too tired. I've been out working in the garden all day and was messing stuff up. So now we're fixing stuff. Perfect. Let's throw them together, see how it looks. All right, so what we do to check them is we put them together, hold them up to the light, and it is perfect. From a size point of view, let's see how we did. And we're just to the edge. So it worked. Good thing. Had our thinking noodles going before we screwed something up pretty seriously. Sometimes if stuff's not working right, just push the pause button. It's okay. This baby is really working nicely now. I take very fine cuts on the joiner. I think it's set for a half a 64th, just a tiny amount. Maybe it's a 64th. You can get a great surface finish. This is so smooth. It's a thing of beauty. It's gonna glue up great. Here's the side before it's joined, and we'll join it. I don't even have to throw the straight edge on there to know that's going to be perfect. Beautiful. Love this tool. If I was building a shop again, I'd get probably an 8-inch with helical cutting heads. The last thing I'm going to clean up on there is the side wood. This is going to get resawed or sawed the long way. And so to make that easier and accurate on the bandsaw, I will clean up this edge that it's gonna ride on and sit on so that it's nice and square with one of these faces. Looks like this was already run through a planer because it's pretty clean on top and bottom, so it doesn't really matter which side I pick. But I'm gonna go ahead and scrape this sticker off of here. Then it'll be obvious which side we used, because one side will have a sticker on it. And heaven knows, I would never put a fence up against the sticker like that. Come on. This is like 5/1000ths. Precision woodworking here. Okay. 5/10. Little spot here. Looks great. That'll do nicely on the bandsaw for resawing. All right, here we go. We're set up for the glue ups. So, got a couple of pipe clamps over here, and I got everything all pretty well adjusted. I've made sure with my body template that that's gonna fit, and we're good to go here. So, things I like to have around when it's time to do a glue up. For a body joint, I like to do 3 paper towels, fold them in half, each of them, and put about 3 squirts of water on each one. Make sure your hands are reasonably clean. Okay, everything's dust free, clean. Looking good. Now this open pore wood, mahogany, is going to absorb moisture when it gets glue on it. The glue is moist, has water content, and it will actually cause the wood to swell a little bit. So that's actually going to work in our advantage because the wood itself is going to close any micro gaps and really just like suck tighter and tighter. But what that also means is on mahogany, you want to use a little more glue than on, say, maple or on some of these really hard kind of exotic woods where you have to use either special glues or use great care. Clean, maybe clean the wood if it's oily with something like acetone first. So I'm going to get a feel and see if I've put enough glue on here. It's a lot less messy if you don't use your finger. If you use an acid brush or a roller, or there's a number of other tools available for this. But, I like to use my finger. A couple times in my life, I've found a little piece of dust or something on there that I didn't like, and the thickness that I've got here, perfect. I got a little drip here. I'm gonna clean it up right away. Okay. Now this glue is Titebond Original. You can tell I haven't put quite enough over here. Titebond Original, and it's widely used in guitar making. It's reversible with a fair amount of heat. So that means it's repairable. Something like a Titebond 2 or a Titebond 3 is not very repairable, and so not really recommended for guitar construction. You'll hear people talk about natural glues, which natural glue really just means like fish glue usually, because if you're using let's say a hide glue, you will usually say that because people think that's something so special and great. My understanding, I haven't worked with it, is that true hide glue, where you use the hot pot and all of that, is not only really difficult to work with, it is not, hold on, I'm gonna set this up right now. I need to pay attention. It's good to know when that moment is. You need to be aware of what you're doing. And for me, that moment is now. So I'm not pushing too hard. This Titebond 1, Titebond original, has a pretty good long working time. Somewhere in the, I don't know, feels like almost 10 minutes if it's not too hot in my book. They might say it's longer, but that's my opinion, how long you got to work. So once I get those sides to touch together, I'm gonna gently lower this down. I still haven't put a great deal of pressure on it, but see, it stayed in contact the entire time. I want all that wet glue to remain in contact. Now I've got these alignment marks that it is important that I get lined up so that I can fit the template that I need, and I am going to now begin tightening the first clamp, just getting it toward being in position. I'm not going to actually clamp down vigorously yet until I'm 100% comfortable with the positioning of the clamps, because the way that a glue like this works, well, any glue that I've worked with really, is that it actually sets up not on time, but on pressure more than anything. And so as soon as I start increasing the clamping pressure, this is going to take a set and be difficult to move, and realistically, I just won't want to move it past that point, because once it's set, it's beginning to cure. And it's best to let curing glue finish curing. Now over here, I have not laid any protective paper, wax paper, or anything underneath the glue up, because this table itself is a glue up table. If a little bit of glue drips, it is not going to be the end of the world. And some will drip, I'm pretty sure of that. So, okay, this has a really nice look to it. I mean, seams not coming out perfect. It's flush top and bottom, so there's not going to be a lot of work cleaning up this blank once it's completely done. I'm going to grab one more clamp and throw it on here though. And this is one of those times. So, we'll throw another clamp on, just to feel super serial secure on this guy. I'm just watching for any movement and seeing none. And it's perfect. Okay, great. All right, that's done. Technically, you talk to the folks at Titebond, that's done in an hour. Benedetto from his archtop making book says let that sit for, he says let it sit for 24 hours, but he also says let it sit overnight, and the next day you can work on it. So I think the idea is just let it sit a good several hours. I always end up doing them, letting them sit overnight. Never taking them out quicker than that. Here we've got the back set up over here. I use this table for gluing too, but I cover it with the wax paper so there's not a mess. I'll go ahead and get this one glued up. All right, we'll bring over the glue and the water bottle. Preparation when gluing is very critical. One of the most tricky glue joints, in my opinion, well, take a second and guess what you think I'm going to say. Which glue joint on a guitar do you think is probably the most treacherous? are the most careful. In my opinion, it's gluing on the fretboard because there's such a large gluing surface that it wants to skate around and move around. It's also radius. It goes from thin to wider. There's a lot of goofiness about that. And those like to move around, so I pin them. You gotta pin them. What the cello guys do is actually hollow out underneath so that you've only got some glue around the surface, so it reduces that ability to skate a lot. But yeah, fact of the day, factoid. All right, got a little water oversprayed on here, no biggie, not a problem at all. I've worked with this wood before, never had a problem with it holding a nice wood joint. I'm not gonna use probably quite as much glue because this is a little bit more closed grain wood and won't swell as much, won't soak up as much of the glue as I put it on here. So I might have gotten it too thin, but it's okay. I don't want a huge gluey mess. I will come back and add a little bit till it's the right thickness, but I don't want to start from a point where it's just swimming, because this stuff, while not the most tricky thing in the world to clean up, is, you know, not super fun. Gets on your clamps. It's kind of a pain. Like that, I like what we got there. This side's really nice. I knew when I was doing this other side here, I might not have quite enough, so real quick light bead. Probably got a little bit too much now, but too much is acceptable. It's just messy. Too little is not acceptable, because you will not get a good joint. And these are forever joints. You may take the top off an instrument someday, potentially fix a side crack or do some sort of work on the inside of it. But you really never go ahead and pull apart a book-matched piece of wood. That is just not something that's done. So, great. I know from your angle you can't see very well. I'll dip it down so you can see. We got a nice coating on both sides. I like to do my aerial alignment work now. And got the cheater lines on this side where it shows me what the guitar looks like. Give it a little wiggle till it kind of starts coming together. And I know I probably have some squeeze out on the back there, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about it. I'm going to lower this guy down into position. Always keep in contact. Once that glue comes into contact, I do not let it come apart. And once I squeeze it, that's it. And it's set. So, take a little time here, catch my breath. Start doing a little bit of cleanup so I can get a nice view of that seam. Good. Okay. The clamps are looking like they're in a great position. The lines are matching up. Not that it's super critical on this one. I had plenty of material to work with. Let's see how we do here. Skating a little bit, but that's okay. We'll pull it together here. Get the alignment top and bottom happy. And I'm wishing I was just a little bit further off the edge here with this guy. There we go. Good. And just putting just a mild amount of pressure on there to get that to into position. These quick clamps, pretty nice clamps for this work. Okay, we're aligned really nicely on the elevation level. Start squeezing. No time like the present. Okay, I think we've got a nice solid connection there. Likewise here. I will clean this up a little bit. Looking swell. Ooh, that's a nice tight joint. Okay, let's see. You can even see that joint. It's right here. Nice and tight, super clean. And like on the other one, I'm gonna throw one more clamp across here. And then I think call it a night. It's almost 11 o'clock on a school night, so I gotta get to bed. Catch you later. The back and top are obviously well dried. It's been almost 24 hours. I'll go ahead and pull these out of clamps and see how this turned out. So, pretty clean on the back, pretty well aligned. It's not going to take much cleanup to get this thickness, and looks good. It's already taken a nice look to it. Well, it's got a nice. It's called chatoyance. When the grain lets light in and refracts it back out, and you get that cool grain pattern. That's called chatoyance. So, I'll take that back out in a minute, but nothing shocking going on there. I did decide that I really like the neck and the sound of that travel size guitar that I made, and it's all made out of this block of wood right here. I was thinking for this guitar, a maple neck, and mainly I needed a neck block, because for this style guitar and this whole area, it's one solid piece of wood. So that limits me to some pretty big hunks of wood that I have around in the shop. And I started thinking, boy, it'd be pretty cool if the neck block and then the neck were all made out of one, if not one continuous hunk of wood, the same piece of wood. That's pretty cool. So here I've got the neck block portion laid out. And I've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4 different necks laid out on this hunk of really nice hard maple with a fair amount of curl in it. Not super curl, but fair amount. This is super thick, almost 2.5 inches thick the entire way. I've had this piece of wood for several years. It's never gotten any warping to it. And so I thought, well, got an opportunity to do some really nice one-piece necks out of this thing. Laid it all out last night and decided, you know what? Let's cut it up, mill it up, get these necks roughed out. And so that's what I'm going to do tonight, is rough those out, take the backs and sides out of clamps, and probably not do a whole lot more. It's already pretty late tonight, but little work every day gets the job done. Here we go. So here's the end result. I've got that neck block for this guitar I'm working on now. And 1, 2, 3, 4 rough neck blanks. You can kind of see them begin to take shape. There'll obviously be a lot more work to be done to take it from where it's at here to a completed neck, but it's got, you know, a nice little curl to it, some straight grain, and super happy with being able to, with all the use I was able to get out of this one big chunk of wood. So awesome. Gonna hop on to doing a little resawing now, and you'll see what that is. That's where you cut the thinny way. And for sides, I'm shooting for about 80 thousandths. So let's get this on the saw and see what we can do. So now, for the tricky part, we need to adjust this fence in very tight. So what I'm going to do is set this wood against the fence, and I'm going to measure on this outside here is where I want my thin side piece. I've gotten pretty good at eyeballing this, and that'll do. Nice and slow, paying attention. The really difficult wood is sand. To cut it right close to my target thickness, it's sawing like a dream though, so far. I'm going to avoid rushing. I want to just keep going nice and slow. Before I reposition, I'll show you what we're looking at here. Looking pretty good. There it is, ready to continue through the guitar making process. Thank you very much for joining along. I will be continuing with this series as much as I can on this guitar build. So remember to click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of those videos. And if you like this kind of content, please go ahead and click that thumbs up button. All right, it's going to be a late night, so I'm going to call it quits. Thanks a lot, and see you next time.